In this video, I'll be discussing how to install Docker for development on Windows 10. I just finished installing a fresh copy of Windows. I've installed the device drivers for NVIDIA, my recording software, and now I'm going to show you how to install Docker on Windows. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your Windows are up to date. So you can do that by typing Windows Update. And as you can see, I have several updates pending. I'm going to go ahead and install now. Okay, we got the first round of updates installed, and as you can see, there are 3 waiting on a restart, so I'm going to go ahead and restart, and then we'll continue installing. So I just rebooted after the updates installed, and now I'm going to make sure there are no further updates to install. And as you can see, there are a few more updates to install. And again, I'll check for updates. And we now have no further updates to install, so we can move on to the next step. So as we can see, the next step is to install Windows services for Linux. So our first step here is to launch a PowerShell with administrator privileges. So down here I'm going to type PowerShell. Up here I'm going to right click and run as administrator. I'm going to say yes. Then I'm going to put this over here so we can see the instructions while we do this. So the next step is to type WSL space -- install. And we'll give that a minute to run. So as we can see, the WSL install command has completed. Now we move on to the next step, which is enable the virtual machine platform. So in the same PowerShell, we're going to go ahead and run this next command. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And next we're going to download and install the WSL kernel update. And of course I'm going to say yes. And our next instruction is to reboot Windows, so I will be back shortly. So we have successfully rebooted Windows, and now it is after the reboot, it is installing some Linux for Windows services for Linux. So Windows Services for Linux version 1 is finished installing. It's asking me to create a user. I'm going to go ahead and create a user. Now, this is Windows Services for Linux version 1, so I probably won't be using this version. I'm going to go ahead and exit this terminal, and now we're going to proceed with the install instructions. So we are at this step here. It's time to start our PowerShell again. Run as administrator. Yes. Let's put them side by side. And now we're going to tell it to use version 2 by default. The operation completed successfully. And now we're going to go to the Microsoft Store and pick a distribution of Linux. My personal favorite is Ubuntu. I'm going to go ahead and get that. No thanks. And launch. And there we have it. And I misspoke previously. It's using the same version of Ubuntu that was installed previously. We set up the user, the Linux user, and now we can run Linux commands. UB. And I'm going to go ahead and pin that to my taskbar. And you have successfully installed Windows services for Linux. You're ready to move on to the next steps. So previously we had finished installing Windows services for Linux. Now we're ready to install Docker Desktop. Now that Docker Desktop's downloaded, we'll go ahead and install that. Now we wait for Docker Desktop to finish its install. Now you can run the tutorial if you wish. I'm going to go ahead and skip the tutorial. There's really not much in the tutorial that's useful for local development on your local machine, but of course it's up to you. And then finally, we will run the obligatory hello world from Ubuntu. You should get hello from Docker, which tells us that our Docker is running successfully. And then we will run the same thing from PowerShell. And again, hello from Docker. And you have now successfully installed Docker Desktop for Windows. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for your time.